Please let me know if music's too loud or too quiet. Just gonna be drawing some comics today. Part of it's gonna be because I wanted to talk about expression. So it'll be easier if I actually have something to start with. Yes, Electric Guru. Hopefully the copyright-free music I picked this time is a bit better. Last time was half and half. So, this face right here, this comic is going to be a very short one, because it's basically just going to be a repeat of something that happened while playing Xenoblade 2. And that was me and the person that were playing commented like, oh gee, I wonder what part of the floor is weak, because there was a panel that was like very obviously cracked and the others weren't. Like the others were pretty much immaculate. And then the AI for Rex just like immediately as soon as we said that walked on the panel and just broke it. Like the timing could not have been more perfect. So I'm gonna have Nia in the first panel being kind of like sarcastic, like, oh gee, can you spot which one is a broken panel? And then you're not actually gonna really be able to see her in the second panel, like her face at least. She's just gonna look at Rex falling into it. I am planning on having her body be the same though, to like just imply that all she did was turn her head. So that might be a good instance of doing the copy-paste thing I talked about last time. I know one thing people wanted to have as a topic was character design, and the Xenoblade designs are definitely stuff I would bring up during that, because this document is actually all of the simplified designs that I have, because Xenoblade in particular is one of those series where no, I am not drawing every single detail for these characters, because frankly, some of them are just too much. It is frequently a series where I'll be looking at high definition concept art, like zoomed in all the way, and I can't tell what I'm looking at. And that is bad. Like, don't want that if you were designing a character. I was about to say, I probably won't do too much coloring in this one. Too much. I'm doing pretty good. Had a nice walk today. Went to go get some food. Put on a mask, of course. Stayed away from people. I need to go on more walks, honestly. I've missed them. But it's been really hot lately. Not too much. Okay, like it was hot last week, but not too much this week. I need to get up in general. Yeah, during the stream I don't do it as much. Like, I mean, that would be kind of cool, but that would also be a little hotter, I think. Maybe. I don't know. I've never actually worn one. Yeah. One thing I've been doing, and I don't do it during the streams just because I only stream for an hour anyway, but I have a little, oh, poor immune system. Oh, that sucks. Lufico. One thing I've been doing, well, I've done for a while I'm on the computer is Windows, obviously, and, well, actually any, what do you call it? Operating system. A little tired today. Any operating system has, like, simple timer apps. So I set it for half an hour, and I just use that as an indicator to take breaks and stretch and such, and it's really helped. And even just doing like, it's small, but like jumping jacks or something. And I got a hula hoop actually, best $5 I've ever spent. It's just a fun way to get a little bit of exercise, even while all this is going on, and to just make sure that you're at least getting up. It's also actually pretty motivating because I never realized exactly how long a half an hour was until I started taking those breaks with the timer. Like, you can actually get a decent amount done in just a half an hour. It's pretty cool. I mean, if you run after the dog, definitely. No, I'd count that as exercise if it takes hours. Oh. Well, I'm still on the timer topic. The timer's actually really funny. It's had a few moments where, occasionally my tablet acts up, or like Sai does, or something happens and my computer wigs out a little bit, and it's like, oh god, I can't run anymore, so I have to just hard reset it, which is not a huge deal. It doesn't happen all that much. But the timer will still keep going. Like, even with everything else just crapping out, the timer is like, when it gets reset, it's like, hey bro, your 30 minutes are up, you gotta take a break. Even if I had to like reset a couple times or something, it still keeps track of it. I get the exact opposite issue where it's like, it's been half an hour and I've done 2 lines. Yeah, it happens occasionally where I'll like go to Twitter or a Tumblr or something, and then my break thing goes off and I'm like, oh, I didn't do anything. But even with that happening, it's still that nice reminder to, like, you know, get out of your chair for 2 seconds, you know, stretch, keep body decently in shape. I was so pumped when I saw Hula Hoop at the store, because I had watched the TRG Coliseum Direct, and Chugga and Miss A had the little bumper where he couldn't hula hoop, and it reminded me that I had a hula hoop when I was a kid, and I was like, I need a hula hoop again. So I went out and got one, and it was only $5. I don't know if I'll do much coloring on this stream, because I would like to stress more on expressions. But the lines honestly take like probably the longest anyway, so that'll help me get ahead on some comics. I had one of those like skip it things that were kind of like, I could never do those. I don't know what it was about those. Somehow that's reminding me of like Bobbit. Oh shoot, he wouldn't even. So one thing you guys might have noticed in some comics is that if characters really far in the background, or like decently far, I'll just use their color to do their lines. Because like if they're gonna be this small anyway, I just find it to be a waste to go through the trouble of doing all the different color lines. Oh, speaking of Rex, this guy right here, I don't know how I did it, because I'm not the hugest fan of Rex's design in-game, but I really like this sort of simpler redesign. I feel like it was very close to being okay, and it just needed to be a little less. I'd be getting ahead of myself. Please consider character poses as a stream topic. Do you have anything like specific in mind, like this pose where he's fallen? Typing in landscape. That's my excuse this time. This time. As far as character posing goes, it actually is pretty, like for me, how I decide draw poses day to day. It actually is, it's a good topic to go into if we're going to be talking about expressions anyway, because I related a lot to the expression because of the term body language, right? So, you can't quite tell as much with Mia here because it's just the shoulders, but she was kind of doing a, you know, like, oh gee, I wonder where the thing is, ha ha ha, you know, like, I wonder, yeah. Because, hi Chaos! You know, like that kind of pose, like the face would be fine, but like if you just did, you know, like this, like the arms just being down like this, it doesn't really give you that feeling of, you know, she's being sort of snooty about it, you know, and like, again, even though this is from the shoulders, you can still kind of tell that her arms are going out a bit, because if they were going down, it'd be more like that. And even in this instance, it could work that way, but as far as this one goes, you know, it's Rex, he, in the comic, he just full on ran over this broken panel. So, this pose in particular, I was trying to evoke that feeling of like, his foot stepped on it like this, and then when it broke, it kind of slipped like this, so the rest of his body is now falling backwards because he lost balance. and his arms up because he was just running normally, you know, like this. So, you know, like he stepped down his... I am still using... Don't call me out like this, Ocean. So this pose, you know, he stepped like this, and then it broke, so I kind of turned it, and then you want to have a bit of smoothness with the action line, so I curved it a little bit. And that's how I chose to do that pose. And since this is the reference over here anyway, the reason that he's like this, in this pose, is because in this comic, he was walking normally like this, because he was like, wow, this is a nice day today. I like this. This is really good. And then the base of this comic was that the person playing thought there'd be an invisible wall to catch them, but there wasn't, so they just straight up walked off. So then, again, it's a bit more subtle, but it was just a slight tilt, because they literally just walked off. And that's also why I didn't change the pose that much in this one, because they were absolutely not expecting it, so they only realized in their face. Their body is still like, it's kind of delayed, because it's like, wait, I should be just normally walking, why am I going down? But the face realizes, like, oh god, I'm falling. Same thing with the full body here in that same comic. She knew that there was no visible wall there, but at the same time she wasn't really expecting him to just full off walk off like that. So this was sort of like the attempt to get at a lunge of, like, you know, just one big step of like, oh god, I have to catch him before he falls off. But, you know, it's kind of futile because they're too far away, right? And I'll probably go into a few more later. Oh god, I'm undoing it. Once I finish drawing this Rex too, maybe even a few more on here. Actually, these are right. This is the panel right before this one in the refs. So you can actually see there's the consistency that his arms are bent here, just like they are right there. And then, like, she doesn't need the consistency between the two, because this is a very sudden, like, oh god. So, hopefully that makes some sense. But yeah, a lot of the poses I choose are very much inclined on whatever the emotion is supposed to be. Very, very, very often exaggerated, because, you know, I'm going for little laughs, more cartoony, stuff like that. And it's easier to pull back than it is to push. So, like, if I'm doing a fall and I had him like, oh god, and I'm like, maybe not quite that far, I can pull that back more than easier than it would be to try to push it. Unless you're already versed in pushing poses. Honestly, that's part of why I actually find comic poses a lot easier, because there's, you know, something going on. It's like a storyboard almost, you know, going from point A to B. But in a standalone piece, it's like, okay, you really want, you know, like what is the context of why they're posing? Sometimes there just isn't context. Sometimes it's just drawing of the character, and that can be hard to decide, like, okay, well, what are they doing? Because if they're not doing anything, it's like, well, people don't just randomly stand cool, they just stand normally. And I think that's part of why a lot of things come out as, oh, they're just standing there, I can't think of a pose, because there's no context to give them a pose to. I randomly stand. You know what, Chaos, we should. Oh, I just identified your biggest motivation killer. The lack of context, or... Sorry. Sometimes I will just laugh at whatever I am drawing, which is a good sign. Yeah, context input. That was honestly a decent killer for me too, in terms of drawing like standalone pieces. Because I need to think of something that they're doing. Otherwise, it's like I don't know. Like, otherwise it's just gonna be the same. I'm standing here pose, which honestly is fine. But you know, I understand that feeling of I want it to, you know, look nice, look cool, something, you know. But often, if you want a context in a standalone piece, then comes the problem that the next step would be to have some sort of environment for them to be in, which then gets into, oh god, backgrounds. So it's just a bunch of little hurdles to go over, I think. Sorry, I'm just laughing again and like, oh Jesus, I'm falling. Okay. So this is probably all I'm gonna do for this one, honestly. I think I'm gonna open a piece I did recently that I was really happy with. And this is a drawing of Firelord Brooke, who is the wife of an LPer, well, I guess a streamer actually, Josh Jepson, that I watch a lot of. And her character is so cool. And I asked her for refs, and then I drew her. But they were playing Wind Waker, so I was like, ooh, I really want to do the Wind Waker style. And then I got the refs from her for her character. And I already had the idea of this pose. And like, it didn't have to be like a complex one. I just knew, I was like, I want to draw this character, I want to draw it in Wind Waker style, which is a nice simplistic style, which also like worked well. Like this character has a great design, honestly, because it's like, it's just that right balance for me. This is the ref of detailed, but also like simplistic enough that it's not too detailed, which is my big problem with Xenoblade designs, right? Like it's just very easy to break it down, right? I love the hair, and like the gradient is awesome. But yeah, this design is so easy to, it was so easy to fit into the Wind Waker style, even though like Wind Waker style is very, very chibi and like messes around with proportions and such. But like there's the clear cutoff with the boots, there's like the puffiness, which you can play around with a lot. Coats are always nice when they're not like too complex. Nice simpler shapes, but like enough that it's nice and detailed, nice collar, stuff like that. So like this is a great design, honestly, to like transfer to almost like any sort of style, because it hits that nice balance between, it's not too simplistic that it would stick out in a detailed style, but it's not so detailed that it's going to stick out in a simplistic style. But anyway, I was going with that because, you know, I have luminosity on there, got the shading on there, which honestly I was like, should I just leave it flat colors? It's gonna look nice, but anyway, I was getting at, this pose is not like too complex, but it is still like a little pose, and I think that's a nice first step to go for with posing at first, is to not worry about being too dynamic at first. You know, like it can just be as simple as like, yeah, I'm firebending, you know, like that's it. Look at me. I'm confident in my firebending. Yay. If that makes any sense. I'll see what else I have in here too for easy, simple poses to talk about. I already talked about these ones pretty much. So this character is named Poppy, for anybody that doesn't know. And as far as her pose went, since she's very robotic, as you can tell. So with her, in comics, I often actually have her being very stiff, partly because that is just how to draw her, because she does have the very, you know, this is straight, this is metal, this is a joint, this is straight and metal, so are her fingers, they're straight and metal. So I do try to have her actually being very stiff, because that is her character. She is a robot. You know, we haven't gotten very far in the game, like maybe halfway through. Oh, I did not draw this Poppy in 5 minutes. This is a reference from way long ago. But I think she gets like more human over the course of it. I really don't know, but as far as she is in this form, she's very robotic, so, you know, I keep that in mind for her poses, is that it's totally fine for her to be stilted because she's a robot. Like, you can see here, you know, she doesn't bend that much, she's just in the corner. This guy's pose, he's just, in this comic, he's supposed to be really overpowered, and the whole point is like, oh my god, we got steamrolled. So, I purposely did not give him much, you know, weight in his punch. Like, I didn't go like hi-ya, you know, like, he punch, because they steamrolled us so hard that I wanted it to look nice and easy. So, like, he's just standing straight, adjusting his glasses, because, like, this punch means nothing to him. Right? I don't even remember this girl's name. They're partners, these two. But she also was part of the steamrolling, so she's just excited. She's just happy to be here, basically. This little pose is from a little, I guess, gremlin-ish guy who, as you can see, has a contract, and it is not good for Rex, who was over here in the panel, but I needed this guy's reference, so I didn't need Rex here. So he's holding it in front of him, being like, don't you want it? Yes. I do that a lot. If someone's being kind of mischievous, I'll often have them poking out, usually from like the bottom of the panel, and they'll be like, but it worked nice with the contract, because this could work as the thing he's peeking over here. Because, you know, being mischievous. This was an intro comic, so there's not much to the pose here, but this is just a big old cat. Confident, I always go for flexing for confidence, because it's a decently easy thing to do. For me, at least. I've drawn a lot of flexing arms, which made it become easier. Right? You know, practice. Closed eyes, big grin. That's usually for that. Having some tilt to a pose can help a lot. You know, like if a character is just standing like this, it can give a little bit more character to have them, you know, maybe tilting a bit, right? You know, like it's just their hip came out a bit, but that can help to give a bit more of a feel. Oh my gosh, okay. I forgot Rock was here. This guy is the epitome of holy freaking crap. What is your design? I am just gonna do whatever, and we're gonna call it a day, because frankly, fuck it. Just no. I almost want to look up Rock's design. To Rock. I don't think you guys see it because I just have Psy as the working thing. Oh god, where is it? Give me there. Oh god. Oh, I'm getting memories and flashbacks to this. Yeah, and like I kind of get it, because you know, a whole thing with you know, graphics and getting better with consoles is like, look what we can do, and things just become needlessly complicated. But this is his actual design. I'll see if I can like do a comparison. But I think a part of the problem here was that in the concept, it's covering this part in the middle. So because the pose I chose was like a flex where it was open, I'm like, what is there? You're the art is not showing what I need to see. So I just had to make it up, basically. This pile one is actually a decently fun pose too, where one of them is laying on top. Another one is, this is one of my favorite poses, having the arms down. It's just fun to do. Yeah, it's Tora. I also like, in my sketches I'll often have the noodle arms and then make them a bit more realistic. But sometimes I like just having straight up noodle arms in it because it's just a bit more fun, a bit more dynamic for that. Mithra's design is one that I decently like, but I hate these because I like having characters put their hands on their hips, and those things are like right where hands would usually go, so I either have to like awkwardly put the hands under them or put them on top of it, which like ruins it because I'm used to putting it right on the hip instead of away from the hip. So a part of me just wants to have a random comic where she takes these off for no reason other than I don't want to draw them. Just don't. Kind of like how you see my original redesign, I guess, for Pyra here, which like I liked this fair enough from her other one, which was but even this was like a lot of steps to do, and her being one of the main people, it was like, oh, this is gonna add a lot of like unnecessary time. So once she got the disguise outfit, I was just like, you know what? She's gonna just keep it on. If anybody complains, I'll be like, whatever, it's cute. You can put it on a game. It's a thing. Oh yeah. I guess this is a decent pose too. So having people sit down can, they can be like this. They can have their knees together if they're feeling like, oh, just relax or whatever. They can have the legs apart if they wanted. They can have them crossed, which I don't usually do because it's a bit harder to draw. They can have one leg over the other. Yeah, she's sort of like, I'm sighing, but she's not like super depressed. Just kind of like she's used to it. She's a little lonely, right, in this strip. So yeah, she's just kind of sighing to herself, like, oh, I wish somebody would come and visit me. Like if she was more depressed, I probably would have had her like, doing the arm thing. I really like the arm thing. It's just like, oh, I'm flopping over. Like I could have had her on the rock. Like I'm so bored. Oh god. Though usually when I do this, I'll have the head down because one of my favorite transitions is they have the head down and then something happens and they whip it up. And they're like happy now. Like they'll still have their arms, but their head comes up like, oh, wait, you said something cool, yeah. Or like you could switch the arms to like, wait a minute, oh, I'm gonna get ready to go. But yeah, I feel like a part of the dynamic posing is thinking about what's the context is, because you want to know what happens after it and like the why, and that makes it easier to think of the pose, because you know, like even with the firebending one, it was like she's just doing the fire, but like maybe she's like falling down doing the fire, or this is an easy pose to do if you need like a simple sort of cool one to do, because you know it just has the legs in a position that isn't just standing. Or even like if it's a baseball player, you know, you would, I don't draw too many baseball players, but like if you were drawing them after their swing had ended, right? That's the context of their pose, is they just swung the bat. And it, like, cause it went, you know, around like this all the way. And you're drawing the end of that pose. Or like, again, if you want to do a baseball player that is, you know, getting up to bat, there you think like, okay, I need a pose. What do they usually do? You know, they could be getting ready at the base. You know, someone's gonna start swinging soon. And again, I don't draw many baseball things, but like, if you need a pose for a character, and it's not like a, if it's a reference sheet, like you're just using it for like base colors and stuff, do not worry about the pose being simple, because that is the point. You want to make it as easy as possible for people to see the details, and not like the rock picture. Like this is not a good reference, because what I mentioned before. It's fine for like a pose and like looking cool and such, but there is this entire section where I have no idea what it looks like underneath here, because the arm is covering it. Does he have a shirt on? Does he have a bra on? Or do they have a bra on? I don't even know. You can't see it. And, oh my god, this is like I didn't even notice that the leg went that way. But you know, like, if it is a reference photo, do not ever feel bad about it being simplistic, because anybody that wants to draw this character is going to be like, oh, thank god, I can see everything. But yeah, like, the character has a weapon that they use, you know, having them pose with the weapon, if they're confident. Like, if this was a shy character, you would not be having them doing this, unless they were a shy character that fantasizes about them being this. But then you would have to add the context of they're thinking about it. And even then you would probably want to like exaggerate this to really get across like, this is a thought, this is a dream. So like, even if you saw only this part of the image, you'd be like, oh, something's weird here, and then you scroll down and see this, and be like, oh, it's a dream, okay, I see. This pose here with, I almost want to call it like the scarecrow pose, because their arms are just wide out, but like, or the come to me, yay, yeah. I use this a lot for like a character that's having fun. Or I know in one of my comics, someone made a bet with two characters. It was Shulk, and he went like this. He's like, yeah, give me my money. And then the other two were like, oh, fine, I'll give you the money. And he was just so proud. He's like, yeah, get money. But yeah, actually, the whole thing I was talking about with like reference photos or whatever, that's actually good for explaining why these poses were pretty simple, is because these three are all the first appearance of these guys. So I wanted them to look nice and easy for me to copy and paste and put in this document, right? So that I could reference them easier. This guy has a profile, so it's not as good for this one, but you know, like I can clearly see the arm here, what this front part looks like, which still is frankly too complicated. I don't like it. But you know, I can see all the different parts to how I draw this character very easy. And like, say this Bono one, it's the first time he appeared and probably one of his better appearances, but you know, the contract was still in the way, but at the same time, I was drawing a comic, not a reference. So it didn't need to, its primary source was not to be a reference, it was to emphasize that he's being a little shit with the contract, so it accomplished that. I hope that was a good discussion on poses, I suppose. But yeah, that's mainly how I like to handle poses, is context and character. As well as context almost has like 2 facets to it, I would say. Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Ani. Yeah, so context, character. So like, this would be, you know, their personality, right? So like, are they confident? Are they shy? Are they quiet? Are they loud? Etc. etc. And then the 2 for context would be in universe. So like I said, with the sports people, what are they doing? Are they at bat? Did they just finish swinging? Are they sitting on the bench? You know, like drinking a bottle of water or something? Stuff like that. And then it would also be meta. So in the sense of, is this a reference picture? Because if it is, then you know what, this does not matter anymore. Because if it's a reference picture, you don't need them quite as much to be you know, posing the way their character would, because first and foremost, you want to make sure that it's a good reference, because that's what you're going to be using it for. Like, you could change up, like, are they frowning? Are they smiling? And of course, that would also change depending on if it's an emotion reference, because then, yes, the reasons and character would definitely matter. A part of me almost wants to try to think of like a third C word to... Sup, Shadow Matt? We're just talking about poses and trying to think of how to context, character, and redacted. We're just talking about how to think of dynamic poses. And we went over, this is my Xenoblade reference document of all the different times I've drawn, you know, semi-important characters, so that I can easily reference them instead of having to look all over the place, which I'm now realizing I don't have Zegan here yet, which is a sin. But I was just talking about context for a pose, you know, a baseball player at bat, or is it a reference picture? And then character, you know, loud, quiet, stuff like that. That helps to determine what the pose is gonna end up being. Oh well. Yeah, I'll have this still on my Twitch Ocean, and hopefully eventually upload it to YouTube. I don't know exactly how much longer I will go, because I'm trying to go at least an hour, maybe further, if people still have things they want to talk about and such like that. Also that I didn't draw very many comics, which I wanted to. Oh, I'll probably just link the the video. I guess I could just copy this. Just because like we did talk about a lot. So I know it would be like a long thing, but I can try to timestamp it or find where it is. Because I think there was a decent amount of good stuff in there, just for people to listen to and watch. So. Oh, and I'll see you, Ani. Hopefully, is this like too late of a time? I don't want it to be too late for people. Yeah, no problem. I like having a little topic to talk about, because then I'm not just sitting here in silence. I feel like that's a nice way to like communicate and have something more fun to watch than just slowly working away at something. I think I will start another one, at least doing the sketch. Because I do think I could get a couple more expression talks out of that, but yeah, we could even just decide what to possibly do next time too. I really actually, last stream I talked about a manga, Nisekoi, which had a lot of good expressions in it, and I kinda actually, like, I wanted to revisit it, and I was kinda like, you know, it could be fun to read that on stream, because, I don't know, I feel like that would be a fun one. It's not like the super longest thing, it's a little bit niche, but the faces would be fun, so, yeah. The next one I could work on is from the Numenera campaign that we do. So, let's see. Okay, so this. So this is my comic base document, which actually I don't need to have this displayed open anymore. And this document right here is how I start out every single comic that I have, basically, because I created it a long time ago, and I made it so that it is the maximum height that Sai can have, and then I put as many panels of the regular size in here as I needed, so then, like, if I need a comic with 8 panels, I can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then crop it, and it'll be the length it needs to be. This one doesn't need to be that long. A lot of mine are usually 4 or so. And then I do trim it slightly, just because the selection thing makes it just a bit too big. Oh, here's a fun question for you guys. Which, if you guys have read the Numenera comics, and if you haven't, that's fine. But if you have, which character do you think I play? Oh, I see a Jack. Trying to figure out. This comic actually might even just be 3 panels. So the way that this comic goes is that most of the party is at the top of some stairs here, and then there's gonna be a guy, like a bandit or whatever, in the dungeon that's calling up and going like, "Hey, wait, Rod, is that you?" And then Claire answers, which was just like, "No, you are the least likely person that's gonna be believable for this." But nobody else answered in time. else was here? I think it was Jack Janessa, only Char. I think I'll also have Oploid being like implying that he was about to try and like pretend to be Rod, which might have actually worked. Just with the skills Oploid has. But he was too slow. So instead he's just like, oh god, wait, no. And then the last panel, or at the very least the next panel, is them turning their heads to look right at her. Like, why would you do that? And something I usually try to do with posing in comics is to have the poses between panels be decently close, sort of a consistency between them, depending on the time between the panels. So the timing is very short, and the actions are pretty minor. So, like in this instance, it's going to be smaller actions in a short amount of time. So the poses are going to be relatively the same because they're not moving much and not in a short amount of time. Unlike the Nia pose from earlier, that one changed drastically because she moves so fast, right? You get that implication of speed by the fact that, you know, it's just one panel away. But the pose changed that drastically in that quote unquote short amount of time. You know, it gives that implication of, oh, she moved really fast there. Not fast enough, but she did. But they don't always have to be, you know, super similar, but it can help with like a cohesive feeling to it. Yeah, this will probably just be a 3-paneler. One thing I find sort of interesting in the way I do comics is that there's not usually a punchline, so to speak, because it's just me sharing like, oh, this was a funny moment from something I experienced. So basically it's just like a storytelling form, and I'm like, this is what made us laugh, so here you go. Let's Were there any other questions or such that people wanted to chat about? We're coming up on about an hour. I do think I probably will, maybe look up a manga or something. Or possibly, another idea I had was to do a RWBY rewatch. Because I actually haven't watched Volume 7 yet. Other than reviews, I've spoiled myself. Oops. But I do feel like I'd like to do a rewatch of the other volumes before I went into watching Volume 7. But since they are all on YouTube, I thought it might be fun to do a rewatch here, like on a stream, with like commentary sort of. Which, that said, would not be a good way for somebody to first experience the show, but just a fun time. Now, Char might have been here. This was a long time ago, so I actually don't remember. But the panel is honestly kind of decently full already, so I thought it only make sense to just have these three. Another very minor character design point, which wasn't the main focus here, but we talked a little bit about it. I did design, well, sort of, my team, I suppose, for the this campaign. I asked them all to send me like design ideas, and then I worked from there to design them. But when doing that, I wanted to make sure, and this kind of relates back to when we were talking about the Xenoblade designs and how they were very complex, but I was also talking about, the graphical capabilities of a console and how they're showing off that with the more complex designs. As far as comics go, if you're wanting to do a comic and you're designing characters, keep that in mind. And design your characters so that with however you draw, it is either something you very much enjoy drawing or is easy to draw. Because if you're doing a comic, you are drawing these characters again and again and again and again. Just as an example, I know one time a friend, when I was doing Xenoblade Comicals, they gathered all the different faces, like all of the faces that Shulk made over the comic. And, like, it was hundreds. It was hundreds of different times that I drew that same character. Again and again and again and again and again. And if you make a design that you don't like or is too difficult, there's no shame in tweaking it slightly, like how I gave Pyra that disguise outfit and just kept her in it. There's no shame in that at all, because if you're doing it this much, nobody can say, "Oh, you're being lazy." It's like, I'm drawing hundreds of pictures. How is that lazy? Work smarter, not harder, man. I think I will finish up drawing Janessa in this panel, and then I will call that for today. But streams have been working out pretty nicely, honestly. So, at the very least, we're going to keep having them, you know, week by week. And, you know, things can change up. It doesn't always have to be drawing. It can be reading, watching something, stuff like that. But who knows, we might even get to a point where, you know, I'm streaming more than once a week. Probably not too soon, but it could happen. I hope that the music was better this time, and that you guys were able to hear me just fine. Hands are another really fun thing to use with expressions. You can get so much out of them. And yeah, it's hard to get over the hurdle of, you know, drawing them in general, but once you do, it's so worth it. Oops. This was a good time. I think we talked about some interesting concepts, got some good things covered. I did a decent amount of comic work, which is great. Helps me get a bit more ahead on stuff. But yeah, I think we will join up. Well, I know we'll join up next week, but as for what we're doing, I don't know, maybe more post stuff, character design stuff, maybe reading something. I'm not quite sure. I'll probably ask patrons about that, to be honest. Another little input that they can give. But thank you guys so much for coming. I do hope that this is a decent time to be doing this. Wednesdays and Thursdays are the best days for me to do it. Right now, just with how my job hours are going to be. But as far as time goes, honestly, I could do it at pretty much any point. But yeah, so I'm just gonna call it here. I don't know how raids work, to be honest, so that'll be something I figure out in the future. But have a good day, everybody.